Councillor Perks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I want to begin by making it clear that I have always supported improved service on those GO lines. In fact, I can go and find you evidence of me advocating for it as early as 1990. The issue here, though, is what are we getting for the extra costs we are paying to have these 6 stations added to that program? And on top of the billions of dollars identified in this report, today we learned that there are at least 4 other costs that are as yet unidentified. First, there's the risk management and financing costs, which the city manager identified as being potentially 30%. Secondly, as we've heard, there is nothing in what we've agreed to here that will cover either the additional operating or capital costs of getting these new GO trains to stop at the new 6 stations. That's not costed in this. We also heard from Mr. Rodo that the TTC will have to somehow generate room to pick up some portion of the additional operating costs of the Eglinton light rail line. Finally, the Chief Financial Officer has told us that there is likely an extra cost to us to get someone to provide us with the debt financing in a way where the repayments are back-end loaded. None of those 4 costs are identified in this report. None of them. They're all signaled as potential costs, and I want to thank the staff for being upfront and frank with us about that. But we're about to commit ourselves to a few tens of millions of dollars, not knowing the answers to those 4 very important questions. The second thing that I think is worth talking about, we had several deputants today come and talk to us, plead with us really, that we need to signal that the downtown relief line and the Eglinton East LRT are real projects. Now, the mayor did ask the staff questions, could we be doing anything to make them go any faster? And staff said no. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the work that the TTC, the planning department, and the city manager's office are doing to make all of this happen as fast as possible. But what's missing, and this is what's heartbreaking and why people, particularly in the east end of the city, feel that this is not a report for them, is we didn't come away with a funding deal for the downtown relief line or the Eglinton East LRT. It's all very well and good to say we're pushing as fast as we can, but what you fund is what you do. I think that was the title of a presentation by a member of the Toronto Public Service quite recently. And what we have agreed to fund is what we will do. And what we have agreed to fund here is not the downtown relief line or the Eglinton East LRT. That's of great concern to me, and I imagine of great concern to the public. The final thing that I wanted to address was one of the recommendations in here that I find deeply worrying. There's been talk about whether we're committing to a property tax increase in this. No, obviously we're not. What staff have done is given us a notional number so we can understand the scale of money we're talking about. What the recommendation will actually be voting on says to look at ways of funding this, including new revenue tools or asset sales. So it is entirely possible. Well, no, before I get there, I want to first talk about the revenue tools option. Let's recall when the city manager initially said we needed to really be pushing on the new revenue tools, what he recommended to us in both his initial report and his narrative around the report was that we needed those revenue tools to solve our general capital backlog. Things like Toronto community housing, things like our deficit in facilities and parks, things like our urgent need to buy rolling stock and other TTC-related costs. Today, we heard both that, well, the money we originally thought was solely for that purpose is also going to be necessary to help us bridge the operating problems we're going to face in 17 and 18, and it's going to have to be available to help us make SmartTrack happen. So money that was once going to do one thing is now going to do 3 things. In other words, much of what it was originally intended to do, like Toronto Community Housing, for example, will be falling down the priority list. This, to me, is dangerous and heartbreaking. Finally, though, I want to put Council on notice that we absolutely cannot sell Toronto Hydro to get SmartTrack built.
Thanks, Councillor Perks.